Welcome back to our podcast. My name's Tiffany Herlin, a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm interviewing Greg Allridge, who's an ACMHC from ThreePeaks Ascent, a short-term nature-based residential treatment program for teenagers 13 to 17 who may qualify for insurance coverage. Please remember that this podcast is not a replacement for therapy. Please always seek a mental health professional for your situation. So we're going to be diving in more, like I said, to how do parents know that they need more than talk therapy and they need a nature-based program? How do they find one like yours?
Yeah, if you're in a situation where maybe your child is struggling with some of these things, maybe they're working with a therapist in the community, and things aren't going well, then you can consider jumping to something like us. Some of the signs that maybe you need to take a more intensive step is if they're actually following through with commitments that they make in their individual sessions, if they are doing therapy, if you're finding that they're maybe not opening up about the true nature of the extent of their problem in the therapy sessions, that could be a sign that they may need something a little more intensive. If you're finding that they're leaving the therapy sessions talking about what's going on, but then coming right back to the environment and then falling back into the patterns of heavy technology use, a lot of gaming, pornography usage, social media, if we're running into the problems of, some addictive signs that they're, very irritable, they're totally focused on that, it's consuming their time, they're not engaging in other activities, they're not following through with their obligations, they're staying up very late and missing out on a lot of aspects of life, then maybe a more serious intervention is necessary, and we'd love to help.
Yeah, and I think going back to the signs that we're seeing from technology use is if they're increase in self-harm behavior, ER visits, suicide ideation, increase in depression, anxiety, you're worried about, their mental health and their stability. You start seeing some of those big red flags. That's a great time to consider that.
Yeah, if it gets to that,
just not enough.
Yeah, if it gets to that point, absolutely, you need a more serious intervention.
Yeah. And what can parents do to support their teens' mental health before they consider a residential program?
Yeah, so some of the things that you can definitely implement, I think being very open with your child about what's going on. We live in a world where, as we're kind of focusing on technology, we live in a world where we're very immersed in the use of technology. Obviously, even this, we rely on technology to do something like this that's beneficial. It's really tough for teens now because they're surrounded by it. All their friends are using it. And this is one of those things where all my friends use it. Well, that's actually kind of true.
All my friends have a phone except for me.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's really close to that. Versus some of the other problems in years past that they may be using that excuse for. But we live in a world where kids really need to learn how to use technology in a healthy way, and helping them navigate that is vital. So we can model good behavior. We need to be talking to our kids about that. Mentioned before that. I think it's vital to talk to them about how they feel about their usage. I think sometimes kids are quite aware of the struggles that they're having, or some of the thoughts that they've experienced, where they've thought negatively about themselves or compared themselves to others, or they're feeling like maybe they're spending too much time on these things, they're not enjoying it. See what information they provide, and they can often be part of the solution as far as putting in ways to restrict that. Also implementing things like, again, going back to the modeling, implementing things like family dinners where no one has their phone out. That's something that a lot of families have gotten away from, and vacations where you're not using devices. If you're kind of wondering if your child has a problem with their technology usage, go somewhere where there is no internet access. And I know that's difficult for a lot of families because sometimes parents can't be away from their own email and their own cell phone access. So try to do something like that and see how the kids respond. I've talked to multiple families who have made the decision to send their kids to Three Peaks because they found on a camping trip, for example, that when the child was away for a few days from internet access, all of a sudden they started seeing their old kid again. And they realized, okay, this is really a problem. I knew there was a problem, but I'm really seeing it now. It's very in front of my face. So that may be when you want to then move on to something else. But there's lots of things that you can do beforehand.
Yeah. And I love that you talked about collaborating with the child, your own child, and talking with them. I think if you're at a point where you're like, I think we need to consider a place like ThreePeaks Ascent, talking to your child about how do you feel, you're doing with, your mental health and your phone usage. And do you feel like there's a problem? And do you want help with that? And I'm guessing that a lot of times the kids may be more aware than we realize, and may more want to be bought in and part of that conversation. Now, there's time they're in denial and they don't.
Yeah.
But I think you might be more surprised if you can get your kids to have that conversation with you and get that buy-in before you start considering things like that. You're going to have much more successful experience.
Absolutely. And you may find that buy-in is only for a short period of time when they're in a really good state of mind.
Yep.
And I think we've all experienced that. When we're in a really good state of mind, it's like, yes, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm going to eat healthier.
It's easier to break away from that. But when they're in that good state of mind, and you can have them write about it and kind of make a commitment, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be regretful afterwards,
or
and may get some
pushback
and things like that. But yeah, when they have that moment of clarity and they're completely honest about it, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to segue just a little bit before we dive deeper into what nature-based residential treatment may look like. But we'll talk about what an educational consultant is and how can they help a parent find a nature-based residential treatment program like yourself. For our listeners, an educational consultant is someone in our industry who their job is specifically to have a vast knowledge and experience and relationships and connections with these programs. They spend the time. Sometimes they might be therapists themselves, or they have worked at a program, but they have connections, and they go to each program and they learn about them, and they create relationships with the people who work there. And so rather than going on and typing in, and searching terms of nature-based residential program, which I think as a parent, I don't even know if I knew how to, find that term, because that's not something I would have been aware of. Rather than having to do that when you're stressed, anxious, in crisis, your child's struggling, this educational consultant can step in, be an advocate, a support, just another team player to say, you know what, let me do this hard work for you. I have a relationship and I know these 3 programs that would be a great fit for your teenager based off of what you told me and their needs. And you can go tour them, meet with them, talk with the programs, whatever you need to make a decision, and I can guide you through it. And then while they still help you while you're at the program, advocate for you if there's concerns or questions that you may have. The therapist works closely with them. I know you've had experience working with educational consultants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they can be really beneficial and worth time for our parents to utilize them if they have the ability and financial resources as well. It's definitely worth your time and money to look into something like that if you're looking at a program and considering
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really good way to cut through the tall grass and really identify, hey, these are the types of programs that would be really beneficial. And they can save a lot of time and energy and stress.
So what are the potential long-term benefits of a teen participating in a nature-based therapy program such as Three Peaks?
I think some of the greatest benefits, not only are we helping an individual in crisis and going through some really difficult things, we're doing it in an environment that hopefully can become an environment that they will always view as a safe place. They will always be able to return to that.
Like you said in the last one, returning to home.
Right? Home, yeah. again, as a species, we've spent more time outdoors than we have indoors, and indoors is not our natural environment. And so I think returning to that, learning how to live within the rules and expectations of Mother Nature, so to speak. Mother Nature is very fair and doesn't treat anyone differently than the other. But there are ways that we can learn how to live comfortably outside and benefit from the natural environment. What's great about the natural environment is it's void of all these distractions. It's healthy stuff that we experience. The distractions that we get, if it's, oh, the birds are too loud, that's a good thing. That's a beneficial thing. We're out in the sun. We're out in the clean air. All of these good things that are very beneficial to us as a species. And I would like for every kid to at least walk away knowing that that's a safe place for them. I think it's very conducive to mental health, to good mental health, and the therapeutic process that we engage in, because it tends to bring everything to the forefront. Again, it's a very uncomfortable environment for a lot of the kids that we encounter. Sometimes we'll have kids that come in and are comfortable outdoors and engage in a lot of outdoor activities, but that's a very small percentage. Most of them are very uncomfortable. So we're getting
sad.
It is sad, and we're getting them out of their element and putting them in a different element. And when they can actually learn how to live within that environment, it's really empowering. The kids that when they do their when they do some big hike, or they find this really cool rock or crystal or something on a field trip, or they get to see some petroglyphs. It's like, wow, this is bigger than me. There's other people that have been here. Other people lived here. Kids that find some of these rocks, they'll make it into jewelry sometimes for their family. I want this for my mom's birthday. She just had a birthday or something, and it's really cool.
Takes you back to that piece of awe, right?
Yeah.
The awesomeness that they experience. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I'm actually wishing I had brought the research in front of me. If you go and look, there's a vast amount of research of how just walking outside regulates your nervous system. Yeah. Puts you in a state of rest and digest, where we need to be and where we're relaxed and can think clearly and not in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah. Nature just does so much around just regulating our nervous system, the breathing aspect, the benefits of the sun and vitamin D, disconnecting from the distractions. I mean, there's a vast amount of research out there that I don't have in front of me, but I know I've seen and read, and that if we can help expose our kids to that, it's going to have long-term lasting effects for them throughout their lives. Like we talked about in the other episode previous, that while they may never bow drill a fire ever again in their lives or go on another hard hike like they did, but they're going to take the lessons they learned with them into their real life and apply it. So,
absolutely. Yeah, it's neat when don't expect any of the kids to necessarily all of a sudden want to become
forest ranger.
An individual that lives in the wilderness and works as a ranger or whatever. But if they can at least see that as a safe place and something that's not to be feared, and that can be something that can greatly decrease overall anxiety. A lot of the things that people are afraid of when they first go out there are very are not threats, are things that they'll never encounter. I love seeing that.
There's a lot out there that just the benefits to mental health and reducing anxiety, depression, and just alone getting disconnected off of their phones and electronics. That alone, having that break, also just really can benefit their mental health and give them a different perspective of like, I can survive without being on my phone all the time.
Absolutely.
Why should a parent consider a program like ThreePeaks Ascent versus, say, another program?
I think one of the benefits of Three Peaks that really stands out over other residential programs that we are in a natural environment. And if a child is really immersed in technology usage, particularly, that can be a really great way to kind of disrupt that behavior and help them reset. That's I think, one of the first things. And I think just, again, a lot of other programs will utilize the natural world, the natural environment, and try to take advantage of that. And there's many, many programs that have access to that, and we are just in the center of it. So it's our environment itself is just immersed in it, and that's one of the neat things.
Well, let's paint the picture for the parents who've never, say, been there.
Yeah.
So like a residential program usually is with the home, and, you know, they're in bedrooms and settings, but you guys are different. And explain to our listeners how.
Yeah, so
they sleep in yurts.
Yeah,
and
so
what the heck is a yurt?
a yurt, yeah. I think many people have maybe seen pictures of yurts in, they're like a camping type setup or something near a national park. And a yurt is basically it's a kind of a circular structure with a roof. It's like a canvas structure. We can also
call it glamping, right? A little bit.
Yeah, some people refer to it as glamping. But you basically have a fixed structure where they stay, and they live in those structures, and you know, we have a range of weather. We operate 365 days out of the year, and so we have kids that are out there in the summer, and we have kids that are out there in the winter. We do have a facility where we have regular showers, flush toilets. So
they have access to all those things.
Yeah, the hygiene aspect is one of the real great advantages that we have. It can really be helpful for, especially when we have kids that really struggle with hygiene. And a lot of times, in going back to the technology piece, kids that are heavily involved in technology use, one thing that tends to accompany that are all sorts of other issues, like maybe their room's totally trashed, they don't shower for days, they've really neglected themselves, and that's, you know, often a sign of depression. You know, it's a big sign of depression, and it's they're just not taking care of those things, and that's something that they can get back to. So we have access to all of that.
So they're not like out there just roughing it. They still have access to all those important things.
And in fact, for many of them, we have to really encourage them to do that, and really try to help them reconnect. Like, hey, it feels better to shower, right? Don't you feel better? Yeah, I guess I do. And sometimes, just due to the fact that it was hot outside, it's nice to take a shower, and then they start to reconnect, like, oh, this is actually pretty valuable to do these things and to take care of myself a little bit more. So that's a very nice aspect. And that's kind of our home base. So they're sleeping in that area at night, and they have access to those things. And the rest of the time, like throughout the day, try to get them out and involved in some physical activity. On the days we go out, therapists will go out and we do therapy. As far as parental involvement, we do a video conference family therapy with the parents. So we'll do that on a weekly basis. And
so it's not like parents just send them off and see you later.
We actually will have family therapy within the first usually within the first week.
And through video, which is awesome.
Through video, and sometimes it goes really well, and you know, prepare for some complaints and you know, some things that are the challenges, but we do that from the very, very beginning. I want to be as transparent about it as possible and get moving on some things, but that's a real benefit to it. So we have the technology in terms of being able to utilize that for therapeutic purposes, but then as far as their access to technology, it's nothing. And there's no student there that has a phone or any sort of technology. So they're away from that. They're engaging in activities that are not technologically based. You know, a lot of times technologically based activities are, watching videos and listening to music, very passive activities that don't really require a lot of engagement. Kids like that, and they get a lot of the dopamine hits, but they're out engaging in physical activity and being more active outside.
That's so awesome. So they're immersed in nature,
Yeah.
but yet still have access to, their needs and getting those met and being safe and in a controlled environment,
Yes.
And, but yeah, and still having access to their families, and families are required and expected to be involved.
Yep.
So that's not disconnected. What else can they expect during the therapeutic process while at ThreePeaks Ascent?
Well, some of the supports that we have in place for parents who have their children at Three Peaks consist of, in addition to the video conference therapy that we do on a regular basis, they'll have the opportunity to talk to their child at the end of those therapy sessions, have some time where totally private just with them. We also provide a parent support group. We also provide some webinars, some educational webinars.
Which is huge, because then that helps parents not feel so alone.
Yeah.
And that they have other people who are going through similar things with them, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So a variety of, we touch on a variety of topics. What we do is every other week we have the parent support group, and then the following week we'll have a therapist-led webinar.
That's
so
awesome.
The therapists we rotate through, and so other parents get to meet other therapists, and so in fact, webinars that I've been on haven't even been attended by my own clients' parents who I know and I talk to on a regular basis. And so it's actually neat because I get to talk to other families and then talk to the kids. Hey, my mom said you did some sort of thing on the internet or something. And so that's pretty cool. So we have some crossover there. One of the things that we do as therapists within the groups is that we'll usually have students within the different groups. So we have a lot of interaction with other students. So I don't run an entire group. I may have one or two clients in that group, and then I get to interact with the other kids in a different way. And then their therapists will work with my kids in their own way. So that's pretty neat. Certainly available throughout the week as far as any information you may need if a parent is experiencing some anxiety about something. You can certainly reach out to us. We have a really great nursing team. We're wanting to be as transparent about what's going on as possible. We understand that when you drop your child off at Three Peaks, you're dropping off your most precious cargo.
Yeah, and which is so hard for any of our parents to do.
So we understand that. So we want to.
They want to make sure they're safe and taken care of.
Yeah, we want to make sure that they feel comfortable and know that they are taken care of, and so we'll keep you in the loop as much as possible. So that's definitely support that we can provide.
Which is great, because then that way the parents aren't feeling like an island, you know, and it's so great that you're doing that family work as well, because as we know as therapists, you can focus on their child and help change a child, but if they go back to the same environment and the parents aren't necessarily looking to changing what the environment looks like, their kid's going to go back to that same behavior. So it's so important to have the involvement with the parents, plus getting the support that those parents need, because they've been through a lot. They're stressed. They have some trauma around these issues, and their kid having to be sent away. I mean, it's hard.
Absolutely.
I can't even express how hard of a struggle our parents are going through. So having that support is huge for them. Yeah.
And we certainly recommend, we have all sorts of books that we recommend for parents. And then as far as additional support that we provide the kids, so we'll be meeting with them. We have the family sessions with them. We have individual sessions with them. We do group sessions. The therapist will rotate out in different groups, do a variety of groups. And the children, while they're out there, in addition to some academic work that they're doing, they have some. We have an academic chapter system that we have in place, so you can get some credits while they're out there, and
so
then
they're
also
not
provides
just totally putting a pause on school.
Yeah,
they're still moving.
They are actively working on some academic work, and we're also doing other therapeutic work. So there's a range of therapeutic assignments that the kids will have. A lot of writing, a lot of reading. We're pretty flexible in terms of trying to find things that the kids are interested in, and found some really great books that can be very, very therapeutic and used in a therapeutic manner, and getting the kids a little more connected with some other things that are not only academic but very therapeutic. So a lot of different things that we can plug them into that may be a little bit different than what they're used to.
And on top of it, they're in nature. They're disconnected from their phones. And it's more than just going to a therapist once a week, outpatient therapy. And you have this, you're managing more variables, because I think for a lot of our parents listening, if your child's in outpatient therapy, there's not a lot of involvement knowing what's going on at home and if the child's telling you the full story.
Yes.
And sometimes some outpatient therapists, for good or for bad, don't always involve the parents as much as they should be involved in trying to figure out the whole story. And so you just have a lot of areas that can leave holes.
Absolutely.
And miss a lot of important things. Whereas in a setting like a residential setting, that's nature-based, you're able to talk to the staff and say, how is this student doing with his peers? How are they doing in this setting? And you just have so much more information and involvement and intensive therapy going on versus just once a week, where who knows if you're getting the whole story. Yeah.
As far as the overall engagement with the individuals that are out there, we have our direct staff that the kids are working with. They're talking to field management. They're talking to us as therapists when we go out there and interact with them. There's a tremendous amount of training that goes into the staffing. There's a lot to it. It's a difficult job. The staff are out there for a week at a time, and they'll work with the kids throughout the day. Then we have night staff come in. They're fully supervised at night with a grave staff that's awake.
24/7 supervision.
Yeah, 24/7 supervision. We've got cameras in the yurts so we can intervene if there's any issue, any sort of thing going on, and they're there and taken care of from that perspective. And we get information about what's going on directly from the staff. That goes to field management. Field management is out there on a regular basis. We typically have a member of field management out there at a cabin nearby. So if there's an emergency, they can immediately join in. And so we're heavily involved. If there's something that comes up, an interaction between a couple of kids, hey, how do you want us to intervene? Oh, cool. Why don't you do, maybe this can be an approach that you can take with my client, and then the other therapist can come up with a different approach, and we can collaborate.
So it's collaborative.
Very collaborative.
That's awesome.
And so we can really do some adjustments for any sort of issue that does come up, because we expect those things to come up and we want them to come up.
And as a therapist, that's great, because sometimes when you're just doing outpatient therapy, you kind of are an island.
Yeah.
And but in this case, the student's not only getting exposure to other therapists, but also other therapists are giving different perspective and working together with you and their other client, and it's just a more comprehensive therapeutic approach altogether.
I love that aspect about it, because it is easy to get blinders.
Yep.
There's been plenty of situations where I thought, this shouldn't be a problem, and then I talk to somebody else and they bring something up, I hadn't even thought of that perspective, and vice versa. So I think it's really good to have different eyes on it.
Makes you a better therapist overall.
Absolutely.
What is the typical length of stay?
60 days plus. We've had students that have been there shorter. We've had students that have been there longer.
Okay.
We do have the possibility of insurance support.
That was my next question. Tell us what that looks like.
We have a phenomenal insurance team that works with us. So if there's a family that's looking at us, they can investigate what insurance will do and how insurance will support them. And we try to support that team as much as we can with whatever we can on our end as far as documentation and the needed support there. So, which is
huge when parents are considering the financial burden and trials that comes with this when they need residential. And so having that, team that's looking into their insurance and the insurance coverage and trying to fight for that.
And they do fight for it. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have quite a good success rate on a lot of that. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like such a phenomenal program, especially if you're trying to detox your kid from their phone, get them back out in nature, reconnect with the family and with themselves. Just sounds like such an ideal, if you're at that point where like, what's happening at home, it just isn't working and my teen needs more. This is a great avenue to investigate. Would you leave us with a success story?
There was one that occurred relatively recently. That was just really neat. So it was a student who had, he'd been making steady progress. He'd been to a number of other programs before. He was pretty young, but he'd been, really struggled. Been to a number of other programs, and there was a time frame when his mother was going to come out and visit him, and I was very, very concerned about how it would go, because I almost expected him to just throw a fit. I need to get out. I need to go home with you. I need to do that. And so I was really concerned about how it would play out. And it was amazing because we did surprise him with the visit. And his mom got out there, and after they had their initial connection, she said, "Well, I'm not here to pick you up. I'm here to kind of evaluate where you're at, and I want to talk about what the next steps are and what we can do to get you back home." And his response was good, because I don't think I'm ready to go home. And week after week after week in therapy, every time we got on the video conference, it's like, I'm ready to go home now. I think I could leave right now. And it was amazing to actually be in the situation where his mother was there, and I expected him to pull out all the stops, and he was like, I'm just not ready yet. I think I would have problems if I went home now. And to me, I don't tell this to the kids, but it's like the time I know they're ready to go is when they say, I don't know if I'm ready to go. I think there's some more work that I can do. And that's typically when I start feeling a little more comfortable about, you're ready for the next step. You're ready to take that step because you are aware that there are going to be dangers, but you're realistic about it and you're honest about it with yourself. So that's almost the point. It's like, that is the time when you are ready to go. It's pretty cool. So that was a neat experience.
Those turning points as a therapist are those are our own personal aha moments that we get lucky with and makes this job worthwhile, is when we start seeing the kids change and start really doing that self-reflection and reconnecting with themselves and realizing that they have work to do. And that's what makes our job worth it in the end, honestly. I've loved talking with you. I've loved talking about your experience outdoors and your love for the outdoors, and also your passion that we both have about this book. You and I geeked out on the phone before this podcast about it. Please, parents, go listen to it, read it. It's going to help you in so many ways. Greg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we really appreciate your time. And thanks to our listeners for joining us as well.
Thank you.